Okay, today we're going to get our pattern ready. I've decided to make this little outfit to fit the 18-inch doll. So I've been trying to go through my fabric to decide what would look good on a red-headed doll. I've decided I'm going to try 3 different colors. This one is only one solid color through the dress. So I don't know if I'm going to go with this or this. And I've decided to use a pretty brown color for my upper loop. So this will be the majority of what you see when you go through. I don't know how that's going to look, so we'll find out. So I was going through my fabric trying to decide what to use. I love this eyelet that I think would be very pretty as the centerpiece here. And then I have the orange that would match that. But you know, you just go through and decide what fabrics you're going to do. So I don't know how this is going to turn out, because my waist is going to look like 3 colors in a row like this. And then my flares, I haven't decided whether I'm going to use this or if I'm going to use this, or I could even use, I think this print might be a little too big for that design. So I'm probably going to go with either one of these or this one. So everything's been pre-washed, so I don't have to worry about that. So this is more of a little girl looking outfit, so maybe I'll go with, but this has white in it, and none of these 3 colors have white. But it does look cute together when you put all 3 together like that. And then this would be flaring out. My only concern is I'm going to need probably at least 11 triangles, quarter circles, and it might be enough, this piece. This I have plenty of, so I'm probably going to end up with using what I have so much of. So okay, so now that I figured out what we're going to do, I'll come back and we'll figure out what pattern we'll figure out the pattern for the 18-inch doll. Okay, I took out a piece of freezer paper and I've got my pencil compass. So now I'm going to decide how big I want my circles to be on this doll. So the best thing to do is just take the doll you're going to make it for and measure where you want the flare to start. Do you want it to be at her waistband, or do you want it to come down here? Where do you want that flare to start? And where do you want it to end? Do you want it above her knees? I think these skirts look better when they're above the knees. So in this case, I'm probably going to make my flare start around here, and there's going to be no hem. So all I'm dealing with is that little 1/4 inch on the top. So I'm using 3 colors up top. So I probably want my flares to be probably about right there. Okay, so go to the middle of your paper and put a circle. If you don't, you're going to lose your place. Believe me, I've done it enough times. Make sure you're, if you don't have a circle compass, use a plate. Doesn't matter. So put your circle in the middle, and then just make your circle. Okay, so that's your pattern. So what you want to do is cut it out. You can use typing paper or any paper, or you can just make a circle, 1/4 circle, if you're good at not having to use a compass or a plate. Okay, so once you have your circle cut out, you fold it in half. Okay, Now if you were doing a a full circle with like a chiffon or some lace or crepe, whatever it is you're using, and you want a full quarter circle. But you got to make sure that whatever you're using is going to drape nicely, because if it doesn't drape nicely, it's not going to work. If you try to do a half circle with cotton, it'll just flare out like sideways like this. You didn't want that. Okay, so then we're going to fold it again. So for this dress, we're going to use 1/4 circles. Okay, so let's see how that would look on the doll, if it's good enough. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like when it flares out, minus the 1/4 inch seams. I think that would be fine. Okay, so now you just want to cut it. So now you've got 4 pattern pieces you can just cut your circles with. Okay, so we've got 4 of these. So I would think that we're probably going to need maybe 12 pieces to get around this doll, but it all depends on how wide. It all depends on how wide you're going to have between colors. Since I'm using 3 colors on this, I probably want them so I can get at least the whole 3 colors in the front. So we're only talking about, for her waistband, where she's 3 inches across. So I could even make my, this one is 1 inch wide with 1/4 inches on each side. So this was 1.5 inches for this little doll. So for this one, I might go with the 1.5 inches, because that would give me 3 inches. It would give me all 3 colors in front, or I could even go smaller. But let's do that. Let's go with 1.5 inches, and that would give me 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. That would give me 3 inches across for the 3 colors. So yeah, let's go with 1.5 inches. We might go with even 1.25 inches for our downs. Okay, so now that we've got our now that we've got our triangles, let's make our inserts. This, and we're going to taper it down like we did on the star one over there, because I like the look better. So now we've got to realize we're going to have 1.5 inches. So let's just go down. I hope you can see this in the, can you see that okay? I hope you can. Let me see if I can get you. Yep, you can see. Okay, so we got that. So now we need, so we're going to measure 1.5 inches. So it's hard to do this with the camera. Okay, so there's 1 inch, there's 1 inch, there's 1.5 inches. Here's 1.5 inches, and the reason we're doing 1.5 inches across here is because we're going to do 2 parallel lines. Okay, so there's my 2 parallel lines. They're 1.5 inches apart. So let me make a even line across here for the top. Okay, so there's that. So this is where we're at, but I want to taper it down. So first of all, I'm going to decide how much do I want on the top. Now this is going to be no seam on the bottom, because we're just going to use our overlock, our narrow hem. So I'm going to decide, I'm going to need a waistband, or I'm going to need, not a waistband, but I'm going to need 1/4 inch up here for my either a waistband if I'm just making a skirt, or to attach my bodice or my halter top, whatever I want. So I have to decide how much do I want between here and here. I don't want that much, because I don't want the skirt that long. So we're going to make the bottom of our piece, I think I only want about maybe 1 inch here. So we're talking 18-inch doll, so she's a little wider on her body here. But if we go down, say maybe, let's go down 1 inch. Okay, so that will be this much space. Here's my seam, this much space between my 3 colors before the flare starts. Okay, so now that I've got that, so this is where I want my top to match, and we're going to have a 1/4 inch loss here for the seam. So then I want the bottom of my piece to be about right here. I think that's probably a good, let's just give it maybe 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch for good measure. Okay, so now that we've got that, we're going to take our 1.5 inches and we're going to go to the center. Okay, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So 6 is the center. 2, 4, 6. So here's my center. 6 is my center. And we decided we're going to taper it off. So now I'm going to need a 1/4 of an inch on each side of my center for my seam allowance, so that we can sew our have seams. So that's going to be the taper on my bottom. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, since I've got all 3 lines marked, and I've decided that this is going to be where I want my line across the top. So that's, you can do it more neatly. I'm obviously not a drafter. Okay, so there's that. So we're going to go from this triangle, and we're going to go to our first seam. We're going to go from here, and we're going to go down to here. Okay, so we've just come up with our pattern. So we can cut this out, and then we can make multiple copies. The reason I didn't taper the top, because I want her waist to be straight across. Those are straight seams. So what you can do if you want is just sort of taper it up. But let's go here. And here's our top. Okay, so now we've got our center pieces. So it's going to look like that. And this is going to be our 1/4 inch seam up there. See how that matches? 1/4 inch there, 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to be able to sew that in the middle here on this side and on the middle, so this will match. I have a 1/4 inch on each side, so that will match there, just like that. Okay, so now we've got our pattern. Did I do that right? 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Yep, okay. Alright, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut out some of our pieces, and then we'll get started sewing them up. Okay, excuse me, I got a lot of the pieces cut out. There's just a couple things I wanted to say. You're going to end up, I measured my doll's waist, and this doll here is 10 3/4 inches around. So we had these, we all measured these out to be 1 inch less our seam allowance. Let me get my thing out here. So these were all 1 inch across, less seam allowances. So if that doll is 10 3/4 inch around, I'm going to need 11 of these. So I've cut out 12, because what's been happening is I'm ending up with one of these on each side of the back, and I've been ending up folding them in half to put the zipper or the snap or whatever you want to close it with. So I cut out 12 of these. And if you're going to use something like this, when you do your triangles, you're going to want to do it in the same direction is what I'm trying to say. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with some really strange looking designs once they're on the actual doll dress. So if I have 12 of these, I'm only going to need 11 of these. So if I need that much. So I'm assuming I'm probably going to need 11 triangles to finish this little summery outfit. So I may have enough of this multicolored piece of fabric with this design on it. So how am I going to know if I'm going to like the design or not? Well, you can always test it. You can always pin it together, like I did on this. On this little model piece here. Okay, so there's that one. So here we go. So I've got a few of those. I have those. And I don't need my iron anymore for now. Let me put this away. Okay, so you can pin it. So I've got my little, oops, I got my little model here. So far I've gotten the off-white, the orange together. So let's take one of my chocolate brown and put this together and test this to see if we're going to like this together or not. So we'll put a pin here. We'll put it down to the bottom. Put a pin in where the 1/4 of an inch is. And then at the top we'll put in a 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so that's the one side. So now we can just go ahead and put that here. And then we'll have all 3 colors back to back. 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and then at the top, we're just going to pin the brown with the off-white. Brown beige. Okay, so now we've got our pins in. So now we've got all 3 colors with that design. Let's put this one in the front and see how that's going to look together. Okay, so there you go for that one. I don't know how that's going to look. It's kind of pretty. This sort of fades into the coloring though, so I don't know if that would be a good choice for the center. Okay, let's try this one. I've gotten the brown and the pink together, so I'm going to need an off-white. Let's try that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to serge all the way around all my pieces, and I'm going to get them ready because I'm going to serge them before I piece them together, because if you try to piece them together after the fact, it's just really hard to do it that way. I found out the hard way on that. So if you serge first and then just the finishing the seams off first, one at a time, then when you put them together, it's a lot easier than trying to do it after you've sewn them all together, because we are dealing with almost like piece quilting, like I said before. We're actually piecing them together like a quilt. So let's try this one. And then we can decide what's the cutest before we make it for the 18-inch doll. Okay, so there's all 3 of those colors. Push this one up. Put this one on this side. So if I can get 11 squares out of this cute design down here, I might end up doing it that way, because that's kind of cute, isn't it? That might be a cuter design than the other. And then with the maybe this one would be better. I don't know, hard to decide. Let's see the other side. I guess it all depends on what you like best. You know, it's all a matter of choice. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to go with this one, I think, if I can get enough squares out. So that's it for me today. It's getting late and it's snowing outside, so it's going to start getting darker and darker. So I'm going to serge these tonight, and then I'm going to finish off my seams with that fray check. I found it finally. It's this right here. I bought it at Walmart. I think it was $3.88, but it's hanging on the wall. It's called Liquid Seam Sealant Fray Check. I bought this years ago and I didn't like it because it came out like water. I mean, it still looks like water in there, but you actually, I've been practicing on a couple of my red seams. And if you just put a little dot on there, it holds your, you know how when you cut this off without having to turn your fabric around and re-sew through it, this fray check You just put a little dab on there and it'll hold, and it's not that stiff, and it's perfect for doll clothes. So the problem I've been having with it is when you get it, you have to take a pin and put a pin in the top, and every time I've been opening it back up again, it seals up on me. So, you know, when I read it, it didn't say anything about washing it or anything like that. But it says, always test on a strap of intended fabric before use. Follow all fabric garment manufacturer care instructions. It says place on a piece of cardboard between the area being treated and other fabric layers. But since I use this before I even sew the layers together, I don't even have to do that. But I end up having to put a pin in the top every single time I use it. But it's just so simple. Let me just cut this. Okay, so if I don't do anything, that's going to fray on me. See, the little threads are going to start sticking out. So if I take this, let's see if it'll come out. Okay, I got it. Just a tiny little drop. You just want to just dab it. Just tiny little dab it, just like that. And it's away from your sewing needle too, so you can go ahead and sew on top of that. And it soaks right through. But it really does solve your problem as far as having to finish off all of these little tiny seams. And then you know how when you some people sew them back in, and I'm thinking, what a pain in the neck. So I gotta say, I'm kind of impressed with this stuff. And you just let it dry. They say it takes that long to dry, but I've never had it take that long. It says 15 to 30 minutes. That's going to be dry in like 5 minutes with just that little tiny little drop on there. And I've tried it on chiffon, I've tried it on cotton, I've tried it on organza. Oh, what else did I try it on? And it's just a tiny little stiffness. You hardly even feel it, and it dries clear, and it doesn't wreck your fabric. You know, it's so I'm impressed with it now. So I'm going to serge all my pieces serge all my pieces like this, just like this. And then I'm going to put a little dab on there. I'm not going to do the bottom until we put the whole thing together, because I do that on that with the designer, with that rolled hem finish. But anyway, if I can get enough out, we'll make this dress out of this, and then we'll use that for something else. But you know, they're both kind of cute, and if you put the dark thread on the bottom of this, I really do think that would be beautiful too. I have enough to make two, but I'm not going to. But anyway, okay, so that's it for me today. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.